Cool. So the mainly the thing. So what I wanted to ask is all about. So say for example, if you go with any operator-based approach, or else if you are gonna provide your service on top of Kubernetes platform, so mainly the CRD-based approach, if you look at it, right? So the life cycle of all those resources or stick with the same cluster until unless you don't have solutions like Velero, right? So Velero basically helps you to take the backup of all the Kubernetes resources, and let's say because of the disaster, if you wanted to migrate from one cluster to the another cluster, so Velero basically helps you to restore to the totally new cluster, and then all the resources will be backed up, and then everything works well. But main problem is the restoration time. Basically, it depends on the size of the cluster and the size of the resources what is running on the cluster. So that basically takes based on the size, it may take 1 hour, it may take even 2 hours, even more also based on the size. In order to avoid that, if Veliro can support something like active passive method. So what I mean is, say for example, you can have two clusters in parallel. Uh, so one cluster at any point in time will be an active one, and then other one will be a passive one. So in case of disaster, so you can basically bring up the passive one to active one, because Veliro in between should help to keep the system in sync. Yeah, so anyway, the Veliro is helping to take the backup and all those things. So somehow we can make it possible via Veliro, so that basically you can avoid the restoration time. So let's say 2 to 3 hours downtime based on the size. So what do you think about this kind of an use case? Yeah, so that's what I mainly wanted to ask.
So I'll jump in. So you're asking specifically in the case, so you want to kind of have two clusters running and keep them in sync. So you've got one that is running backups and another one that's continually restoring from the main cluster that's running.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't, as far as I'm aware at the moment, we don't have any support within Velero to do that. I think that's, you, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I imagine you could have something that you write around it so that you could have something, another cluster which is able to access the backups from cluster A, for example, and then cluster B could, if it could access those backups, you could have some kind of other, I imagine you'd have to write your own system around that to be able to continually run those restores. I think I did see your issue, and I did see Nolan commented on it, that it would be a great feature to have, but it's not on the roadmap at the moment. So I think it's something that we can definitely raise to our product team, and have a discussion and try and get a sense of like the priorities, because obviously we have to balance other things, other features that we're currently working on. But I think it would be a great feature to have, but have to raise it with the rest of the team.
Yeah, so definitely. So because this in general, so anyone require this kind of a feature. So because of course there are many things also available outside. Also, you can also build your own one to take the backup and restore. But we need to kind of bring up something like even if you are doing the restore, there actually you will run into a sort of a small downtime. Yeah, so if your cluster is very big, actually the downtime will be more. So when you do the restoration, so somehow we need to address the problem of, so how you can minimize the downtime of a system because of a disaster. Yeah, so that's what the main point actually what I wanted to address. So let's say I was figuring out a tool so which can help in this aspect, so that so we can make use of it, and also this will be beneficial for anyone outside in general. So everybody are looking for a tool. So of course they require a backup and restore, and then even if it is doing the restoration, so they want to minimize the downtime in general. So that's where we need to bring up some kind of I mean, this is another one concept, so what I think of. But there'll be also the another concepts, so as you experts actually, you might know it of, there'll be another possibilities also how you can design the system. Yeah, so this just wanted to put across, so what Valerio basically thinks about in this use case. Yeah.
So I'm not so I will admit I'm pretty new to the Velero team, so I'm not actually familiar with kind of the standard times that it usually takes for restores. Because you kind of ask is like 2 to 3 hours. Is that like a typical amount of time that's usually required for doing a restore on a cluster? I was just wondering, like, if there's some interaction here with maybe the particular provider that's being used, or whether you're using Restic or something like that, and whether that might cause the restores to take longer. I'm not sure.
All
No.
right, so I'm reading through this. I was just able to open the Slack to understand what this. So I guess what you're suggesting is that we have a way to restore from a cluster without doing the step of packaging the cluster and unpackaging the cluster. So just go
Yeah.
directly from one cluster to another.
Yeah.
Yes, and that the reason why is so the restores are faster. Is that why? What problem are you trying to solve? Is it the speed of the restore?
No, it's not the speed of the restore. So it's mainly I wanted to, my main target is to bring down the downtime. Yeah. So if you are doing the restore, so in typical use case, how everybody they run the system is that there will be a one cluster that will be their productive cluster. They will take a backup continuously. So in case of a disaster, they will basically spin up a new cluster, and then they will restore it from the old cluster. So then everything is backed up. So then your system is without any data loss. So your system is back, and then everything will be up and running. But this restoration, during the restoration, your the solution will be there in a downtime. So it may take half an hour, it may take 1 hour. It depends on the size of your cluster, and then how many applications are running, services are running. It's completely depends on that one. So now my main target is to bring down the downtime during the restoration. So how you can basically address the problem to bring down the downtime. Yeah. So I don't want to have longer downtime. So let's say with the single cluster, I'm running it and then restoring to a totally new cluster that is taking example 1 hour. So I need to address, I wanted to reduce down that 1 hour into example some 1 minute or 5 minutes maximum. So how I can do that? So that's what the problem I'm trying to resolve.
Okay, I understand now. So to answer the question, I would need some numbers, but even if I had the numbers, I wouldn't know the answer off the top of my head. So like you already said, depends how long would a restore take, depends on the size of the cluster that's being backed up. I think the size limits that you have set for your clusters also would make a difference. Of course, the less memory you have, the less efficient any the slower any operation would be. So maybe increasing the memory would make a difference. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking through this. As far as the proposed solution for making restore faster, which of course we all that's very much in our interest to go in that direction. We would have to investigate, because if a restore is taking 1 hour, let's say, but the actual downloading from the storage and unpacking is not overtaking that time, if let's say it's just a minute, then the solution is not what the solution is addressing the wrong problem. So the problem might be somewhere else. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe what we're talking about here with this issue is removing the middleman, removing the storage. So instead of fetching from storage, you fetch directly from the cluster. But if fetching from the storage is really not overtaking the total amount of time for the restore, I'm not sure that would be the solution. But also, if your restore is taking a ridiculous long time, then regardless of having to fetch the restore from the S3 storage, maybe there is something else there that needs to be looked at.
Okay.
Yes, one thing I was just wondering is, are you, whenever you take a backup and perform the restore, are you backing up the entire cluster? Maybe there are only subsets of the applications on there that you really need to have restored. So if you do have clusters running in parallel, cluster A and cluster B, and you want to like fail over to cluster B, maybe you could already have certain services running in there, and then you only need to back up a subset of cluster A to get it back and functional.
So basically, I wanted to keep both the clusters in sync. So at any point in time, there will be one cluster is active. So say for example, I have cluster A and cluster B. Cluster A is my productive one. So I always keep my cluster B sync with cluster A, but that will be there in a passive mode. So that is not an active one. So my cluster A is basically active one. So let's say due to some situation, my cluster A is down. So which means that I no need to take a restore. I no need to do the restoration because my cluster B already in sync with cluster A. I just need to bring the cluster B to active one. So my downtime is reduced. So my cluster B is already active. So again, the application is works as it is. Yeah. So without much downtime. So this is the approach basically I was looking into with respect to Velero, or else there will be other possibilities also. What Carlsa was mentioning about, yeah. So maybe there are so many possibilities. So we need maybe if you can suggest us some the best one, so that will be really great. Yeah.
So for right now, the only thing I can, so I suppose you're using a schedule to do continuous backups and restores.
Yeah.
Right. And what I would look at is memory. See if tweaking the memory limits for your cluster would, for Velero to use, would make a difference. So if we were to have a sync feature, we will have, we have to sit down and design and see how it would fit in. It's not on, like Nolan said, it's not on the roadmap. So it's not something that would be implemented. We don't even know if it'll be implemented, but if it is, it might be a while.
Okay.
So what you're talking about is more replication than backup. They're two different concepts. So Velero is focused on backup and making sure that we have a disaster recovery in case of anything else not working for you. You can have, depending on your setup, you can have replication going to one place. You can have backups going to a third place. So that way you're absolutely confident that you can survive a disaster. But yeah, what you describe is more replication than backup, especially continuously replicating things. That's replication.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
But yeah, we of course want to get the downtime down as much as possible, but restoring from backup will always take time. Restoring from replication will take shorter time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the thing I wanted to address. Yeah.
Thanks for raising the issue. Like I said, we can discuss this and some of the other points that have come up today. Add those to the issue. And like I said, raise it with our product team maybe to investigate some of the other things to do with general performance in reducing the restore time.
Oh. So also,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I also heard from one of my teammates is that so they actually using Velero, and in a productive environment, actually their system is very complex one, and they actually mentioned about some issues with the Velero to handling the secret. Let's say if you talk about the distributed systems like Kima, I'm not sure you know about Kima. So it's an extension platform on top of let's say Knative. Yeah, so it's a serverless system. So they actually mentioned that they have issues with Valerio while taking an backup and then during the restoration, because the system is pretty distributed. It's a microservices architecture. It's pretty distributed. So when they are restoring it back, so they kind of missing the secrets, and then the connections again. It was not working as expected after the restoration. I'm not having much details right now, so maybe I can also get the details, and then I can also open a, issue in the Valerio, the GitHub. Yeah, so I just wanted to understand from you is that have you also ran into, or you already know some sort of issues what Valerio is having right now, and what you're gonna address it for those problems, mainly for complex distributed systems, for all different sort of resources, the Kubernetes resources, how effective it is after the restoration in the very complex systems. Yeah.
So I don't know specifically. Sorry, can you just clarify? Were they saying that they were having specifically issues with restoring secrets, or was it the app that they were using for managing the secrets within their cluster? You mentioned Key. I missed the name of the thing that they were deploying. Yeah, I'm not aware of like any particular issues with large scale restores. But I think if you can speak to your teammates and maybe gather some more information, and yeah, like you said, like feel free to open an issue and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I don't have the exact details right now, but I got to know about a few things. Yeah. So the one thing what they talked about is mainly the secrets. Yeah. So so other things. Yeah, I need to get more details from them. And so mainly I asked. So currently, will you have any known limitation for this complicated or complex distributed applications? Yeah, so during the restoration, after the restoration, it has any issues? Let's say after the restoration, so what we expect is that everything should work well. Uh, 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 so before how it was working. Yeah, so that's what I just wanted to ask. Yeah, so mainly, but I can get the details. Anyway.
So with secrets being a Kubernetes object, it would be backed up with Velero. One recommendation that I have is for you to open the backup itself and investigate if the secrets have been backed up before even checking if they were restored. So if they are in the actual backup, that's a good sign. And then we just have to focus, okay, why it was not being restored. But if they were not even backed up, then you have to see, okay, how is the backup being created that's excluding the secrets? Because there are ways to exclude things and there are ways to include everything that you want. So that's one tip that I have.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll also collect more details, and then I will also open a issue in the GitHub. Yeah. I think yeah, that's all from my side. So what I wanted to ask basically.
Well, thanks for joining and bringing us your questions. Yeah, we'll definitely follow up on the issues and things like that, and we'll look out for the issue, the second issue that you mentioned, once you get more information from your teammates.
Yeah. Okay, then so I think I may leave the calls because I connected from Indian time zone. It's 11:30.
Yeah, you should go and get some rest. But thanks for joining us, and yeah, we'll chat on GitHub.
Yeah,
Good night.
thank you. Thanks. Bye
You're
bye.
welcome. Good
Thank
night.
you.